Welcome to the Mojo for Musicians podcast from Manny Cabo Media, where we dig deep into today's top strategies to help you take your music career to the next level with real, raw, and uplifting conversations with industry professionals that are making moves, making a difference, and making the best versions of themselves to inspire you to do the same. What's going on, everybody? I'm your host, Manny Cabo, and welcome to another episode of Mojo for Musicians. All right, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening from whatever part of the world you're listening into this podcast, and welcome once again to a brand new episode of Mojo for Musicians, the source of inspiration for my fellow artists. And as I always say, guys, I am beyond grateful and humbled for all your continued support in taking this podcast to the top of the best music interview podcast on iTunes. And remember, please always share, especially with anyone you feel will gain some value from it. And perhaps, hey, create the next future rock star, because you never know. I'm your host, Manny Cabo, and man, oh man, have I got an incredible guest from across the pond, I might add, literally because he resides in the UK, and I can't wait to bring him on. But before we do that, let's talk about some of the top strategies that a musician needs to cultivate to make music their superpower of leveraging this crazy industry for success. Now, the first one for me is pretty obvious, which is to make sure that you're fully aware and stay abreast of the latest trends. Because honestly, this industry is constantly changing at an alarming rate. So you need to stay relevant with the transitions and its pertinent updates. And this is where I see musicians falling short. Just to remind you, as I said countless times in previous episodes, talent alone will not, and I repeat, will not guarantee you any strides in this industry, because it's just one layer, which by itself isn't enough to make those necessary strides in this business. Your artist commercial viability needs to be as robust and even more so than your talent, which is a great segue into tip number 2. And I understand we don't want to mix business with pleasure, right? We always say that, but here's the reality, folks. As much as we love performing and writing and creating music, we have to get into that entrepreneurial mindset and treat your music career as a business, which will hopefully turn your passion into a sustainable living. Essentially, it's your brand, and your brand is an amazing commodity that you have to leverage and monetize because, guys, you can't survive on dreams and hopes alone, especially in this crazy business. And there's so many components to running a successful music business, and one that I strongly suggest that you all start developing immediately, like right now, is a marketing strategy. And this in itself has a plethora, a myriad of components, one of which is the most important, is understanding who and where your target audience is. Where do you find that audience? That's the key. In other words, you got to find the people that align with your style of music. So before creating a brand, you have to truly understand what the hell your brand is and apply those techniques to best represent this extension of who you are as an artist, because this is what they see when they're not watching you on stage or during your Facebook Lives or what have you. And another important variable is learning how to protect all your creations, which in this case is your music, right? Your assets, which means you're going to have to eventually hire a lawyer and then an accountant so you can start allocating budgets. So needless to say, you really truly have to start rolling out a business plan with goals. So as you can see, it's not just writing the next hit, you know? My advice is definitely, guys, and I stress this, start treating your music like a powerhouse entity as soon as you can. The next one, number 3, in my personal opinion, is the most important. I've probably mentioned this ad nauseum with multiple guests, and yet here I am. Still, many artists forget the value of networking and dominating your online presence. And seriously, folks, if you dominate these two, I can honestly tell you that 60%, okay, again, you're 60% on your way to becoming a big deal in this industry, because if you start to become a household name and people readily recognize you and your music, then prepare for great things to start unleashing in your career. It's all about building relationships. Remember, your network is your net worth. I'm going to repeat that. Your network
is your net worth. So start collaborating and start reaching out to people that are a good fit or like-minded and well-aligned with your personal message. And it could be anybody, managers, fellow artists, graphic designers, photographers, you name it. But above all, the prospective fans. Know where your fans are and leverage all of the platforms out there to uphold your brand. And I say this with a huge caveat because by this point, you should really know who you are as a brand to help facilitate people's understanding of you. And as a personal suggestion, you don't have to go out and dominate every major social media platform that's out there because that's just not practical. My advice is find 2 major applications. That's right, just 2 initially that are best suited for your needs that you can truly leverage and consistently, keyword there, consistently offer value and maximize your efforts there until it's obvious that your growth has dictated that you need to move on to other platforms. And lastly, but definitely not least, is to educate yourself, people. Yes, you guys need to understand that the more you know, the more you will grow on how to best distribute your music and understanding the multiple streams of income that you gain from royalties. This is huge, guys. So many artists definitely dropped the ball on this, including myself when I first started. All musicians out there need to understand things like what is CD Baby or DistroKid or TuneCore and what they do or offer. Well, they're music distributors, for those of you who didn't know. You catch my drift? These are the things that you need to know. Things like understanding what sync licenses are. So when your music gets out on a national commercial or a movie soundtrack, you know what to expect. This is how you make money, guys. Yeah, you can make a lot of money. And Rick Barker and myself in my previous episode had a really awesome and long, heartfelt discussion about this. So if you don't know anything about sync licenses, go back to my previous episode and listen in. It's definitely worth it. And again, your music, your lyrics, your publishing, that's your superpower. That's where you need to truly focus your energy on to increase your ROI on all levels, or return on investment. So guys, please educate yourselves. If you really believe that this is your passion, make sure you're well-rounded to make the most out of your passion. It's pretty simple, right? But so many people don't do it. And when we return, my amazing guest, which truly is amazing, will undoubtedly keep you guys engrossed from beginning to end, I promise you. And he'll discuss how he built a multi-million-dollar corporation to help musicians like you and myself make the most out of their musical aspirations. So please stick around because, yes, you've guessed it, I've got another killer episode for you. We'll be right back.
You're listening to the Mojo for Musicians podcast. To learn more about becoming a guest on the show to share your mojo with us, visit mannycabo.com and send us an email in the contact section. Also, don't forget to subscribe to this podcast on your favorite podcast app so you don't miss any future episodes. And if you like what you hear, be sure to give us a positive review on your favorite listening platform. And now, back to the show.
All right, guys, welcome back. And I got to tell you, I'm beyond eager to delve into this interview because I got to tell you, if you're a musician who's passionate, and when I say passionate, I don't mean, I want to play on stages, I want to make some bucks and chill with cool people. And that's okay. I'm not saying that's wrong. But if you want to make music your business and your superpower to sustain a career, then my guest today is one dude that could certainly bring out the best and teach you how to present it in the most strategic fashion possible to maximize, your potential in the industry. And I've been keeping up with him for years. He's an award-winning entrepreneur, mega educator, knows the music industry and social media world inside out. And he's an established badass musician in his own right, sharing the stage with beasts like Eric Clapton, The Who, Bob Dylan. You guys might have heard of these people, and the list goes on. And if that weren't enough, he's also a mega YouTuber. And guys, actually, that's the reason why he's on this show today, because over the years, his videos, and this is a huge testament to what he offers with respect to information, his videos have been indispensable in my pursuit of knowledge. And I also heard he's a Jedi, so yeah, there's that. So he's the founder of BIMM, a $250 million empire known as the British Institute of Modern Music. But he didn't stop there. and built the DK Music Management and Warble Entertainment, geared toward artist development and management. So needless to say, I got to say this, I'm going to put it out there. Let's address the elephant in the room. If he can't help you with your music career, no one can. So without further ado, let's bring to the mic the British beast, Darth Damian Keyes. Welcome to the show, my man.
Oh, brother, that was amazing. I need to take you around with me everywhere I go.
Dude, I got to tell you, Damian, it's such a pleasure and honor to have you on. And please, do me a favor. This is principle, okay? Give my love and appreciation to your PA, Morella, who actually helped curate this interview. And she's been amazing throughout this entire process. And, I'm trying to keep it real. You're a busy guy. And I know that taking time out of your day from Mexico, soaking in the sun with your beautiful beach shirts. I mean, granted, that's a lot of work, but still, nonetheless, I'm glad that you're here. So I've been keeping up with you for years. And I can't tell you how many nuggets of knowledge you've dropped in my life that have convoluted into either a successful song, video, and now this podcast, which, by the way, Damian, it's in the top 2% of the best music podcasts in the world. So yes, your word is certainly truth, and I thank you for that, man. So tell us what's been going on in your world besides being, inundated in artist development and changing the lives of so many people and musicians. I mean, you've worked with James Bay, seen him in concert. He's brilliant. Yeah. These are the people you deal with. So talk to us. What are you excited about now in your world?
Do you know, it's a crazy time, I think, because we've just had this long period of unknown for a while. But I also feel like we're about to have this next period of excitement. Right. It's going to be really odd. So I weirdly enough, I had a meeting this morning with a bunch of the A&R guys in the management team that I have. And I was like, this is it. Right. This, like, we've been waiting for over a year for this, and it's about to start. It's like we've all gone around in the kind of formation lap, and everyone's lining up, and everyone's kind of looking at each other. And it's right. We get to go and play again. We get to go and gig again. We get to actually promote music outside of just Facebook ads and social media. We get to kind of connect the dots all up again. So I just think we're about to go into a really exciting time, purely because if you think about why we do this as musicians, yes, we want to grow. Yes, we want the return of investment, but we do this because we love it, because the passion is there. And so we get to do the bits that we love, being on tour, going out and doing gigs, actually meeting people and not just having to do this from the bedroom. So yeah, I think this is going to be just the next 6 months, I think it's going to be a special time.
I believe you, man. I really have to concur with that. And you know what? To share a personal note, and I've mentioned this in every one of my episodes, because I love my dad. I lost him to COVID about 4 months ago, and he's essentially the reason why I became a professional photographer, introduced me to the world of rock, the Beatles, the Who, Motown, the whole 9 yards. He was the reason why I got on The Voice, and then I did it again on La Voz, and I've been able to sustain my career because of his passion. So it was a hard hit, but it's people like you. It's people that I encounter on a daily basis in this industry that keeps me going. And like you, and I know you're cut from the same cloth, the moment that I can inspire someone, that I could help them in their career, it's so gratifying. And my dad's legacy for me has to keep on going, because he's the one who always taught me and instilled this value of, if you're going to do something, first of all, follow your truth. Do it right the first time, but also uplift those around you and help them. Because I got to tell you, if you're a billionaire, it's lonely at the top if you're by yourself. So, right? So I'm sure you attest to that, right?
If I was a billionaire, I absolutely would. Do you know what? It's amazing. I mean, that's powerful. And one thing that I found when I started, and how this whole thing started for me, was I actually started through failing, probably the same as most people. Right. And I failed at school, and that cool entrepreneur thing of I failed at school and I had a low GPA and all that sort of stuff. Well, I had the same thing, except my mother made me resit the entire year. So I was like, that's not cool. Failing and being I wasn't good at school, but then having to resit and being the eldest one in the whole year was really uncool. And then from there, I got a record deal and that fell through. That didn't work. And I remember being 18, 19 years old. And I remember thinking, I'll do whatever it takes. The problem is, I don't know what that means. Nobody tells you what that means. You go, I'll work hard. And then you say, well, what do I work at? What do I do? And they go, you just have to practice. And I go, well, I can practice. And they say, you just got to be really good. And you think that's really subjective. I don't know what that means, you know. So
Exactly.
Nobody tells you the routes. No one tells. It's like they kind of say, get in the car and drive. And you say, great, where am I going? And they go, sure, you'll figure that one out. And you just think it would really help if I had a destination to where I was going to.
Truer words have never been spoken. But, you know, not to blow smoke up your ass, Damian, but first of all, you look the part, you know, you really do. You speak the part, your passion drives you. And what I think most about you is that you're always deeply educating and advising all of us. But in addition to that, you honestly do. You help us navigate in this abyss of every changing algorithms and metrics, technology, and any other transitional protocol that this music industry is so common for. And that's huge, especially for me. And I don't have to tell you, you have to keep up with the game and leverage all these platforms, which to me, again, has always been the key to my successes. And yes, knowledge is power, but to attest to what you're saying, it's not enough. You have to take action. Yeah. And that's where you come in, because you got us into working smarter, not harder. So seriously, man, thank you for that. And I'm sure the thousands of other musicians listening can attest to the same sentiment. But by the way, I love acquiring new knowledge. I'm like a sponge with this stuff. I don't know. Maybe I'm addicted, and that's actually a good thing. I've become a good teacher because of that. And for all you listening out there, you always want to keep learning. And I, too, am a member. Check this out, guys. I'm very proud to mention this. I, too, am a member of Damian's Music Business Academy. And dude, as soon as I opened up and saw the plethora of myriad, I texted you this, you know, pick an adjective, you know, it was a myriad, plethora, huge list of videos. I mean, covers everything from Instagram growth, Facebook advertising, Spotify ad growth, you know, everything that comes to my head right now. One of my favorite blocks of videos is your branding, you know, and it was at that moment that I realized, yeah, I'm definitely going to be divorced in a week, because I have been nonstop watching all this content. And mind you, I've been doing this for years, but there's so much stuff. And like I said before, and you were mentioning, you got to keep up with the latest trends. And no, I'm not a sponsor. Damian didn't pay me to say anything like that. But by all means, it's awesome. But seriously, if you want to invest in yourself, then I believe you need to invest in Damian. It's certainly money well spent. And let's face it, guys, you have to have a mentor in life. I've learned that the hard way over the years, because we can't do this on our own. So, Damian, there are so many layers to you that I actually had a difficult time putting together this show. So what I did was I took a consensus. Okay, I had to. This is the only way I could figure this out. I took a consensus from my audience, and I asked them, what are the most important questions that are either hindering or holding back their career? Out of the 100 responses, I picked 3 that I think were the most mentioned. So let's segue into question number 1, honoring your time, of course, if that's okay with you.
Absolutely, yes.
All right, brilliant. So question number 1. This one is actually one of my favorites, because I can tell you at least 70% of the questions revolved is for those that are releasing a new song, especially now that so many artists are focusing on the quote unquote, the single that best represents them. So what would you recommend an artist prior to releasing, at least top 3 things that are must do's, no exceptions? And I'm giggling here, right? I'm giggling like a little kid, because I've actually consumed your 48-hour release strategy. Notice how I quiet that. And you call it, but this is the cool part, you call it the eye of the storm, which I love, because that's exactly what it is. So indulge us with your insight, brother. Go.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. That is the eye of the storm. And I think, you know, one thing that we have now is we have to think of releases as a marathon and not a sprint. And so what tends to happen with artists, they say, right, I've got the song. So it's like, now how do I make this into, you know, a multi-award winning song? How do I get the return on investment? Instead of thinking, well, how does this song just keep me moving forward, getting me up to the next level? So the next song and the next song and the next song. The way I think of it, I think of a career as, you know, like a boxing match. Not that I've ever been in a boxing match. I'd be terrible. But I think
wait a second. You could, bro, because you're in shape, man. You're fit, bro. You look like you could jump in the ring. Go ahead.
I think I'd be really, if someone punched me, I'd be really disappointed. But no, I think, you know, you don't train for this kind of like, I'm going to get in and I'm going to throw a punch and I'm going to win.
Right.
You train because you know that there's going to be 12 3-minute rounds, and you're probably going to have to throw 200 or 300 punches every single round. And if you're going for the belt, you might have to have 10 or 15 sort of matches of 12 rounds. So you're not training for one punch. You're training for 15 fights of 12 rounds of 200 punches.
That's a great analogy. Great analogy.
Is the same thing. You know, a career is every song, every piece of content, what they are. They're small jabs, they're small punches. They're figuring out what's working, what's not working. And so what we mustn't do is we mustn't say, right, well, I've got this song. That's it. All I need to do now is put this out, and then the world will open up for me. And hopefully it will, because that's the thing is, you know, if you are that amazing, who knows? Maybe you do get into that first fight, you throw one punch and you just go, oh, I won.
Well,
but
that was easy. It's like that Staples thing.
Yeah.
That was easy.
so we can't train for that, even
Right.
if that does happen.
Right.
And I think it's the same thing. So the first thing is, in order to set up our dominoes, in order for when it gets to that release day, we can just press the button and they all start falling. They start to do the work for us. And it's the lead up that to me is the most important thing, because the way releases work, even though the music industry changes so much, and it has changed so much, there's certain fundamentals which haven't changed at all. So, for example, 20, 30, 40 years ago was the same thing in the way that if you wanted to chart, if you wanted to spike the algorithm, or if you wanted to get on radio back then or TV, you had to do a lot of stuff in the very first 7 days, or possibly even the first 24 hours. Now, fast forwarding to now, there's no difference. We have to spike the algorithm. So what happens is, when it comes to that release day, we need to get everyone to do the same thing in a very short amount of time. So rather than saying, over the next couple of months, I might do some advertising, I might try and do some radio, we say, no, I'm going to try and set everything up. So within that first 48 hours, maybe the first 3 or 4 days, but that first 48 hours, which is the most crucial time, I'm going to get all of the stuff that I want to happen in that short amount of time. And now what that does is it turns heads, whether that's a Spotify algorithm, whether that's someone who's on radio, whether that's an opportunity with a gig or a tour. As soon as you spike something or something interesting happens, people turn their head and say, what just happened? What was that? What was that? That was really good. And at which point that builds the momentum into the song starting to kind of go outside the atmosphere. Because as soon as it goes outside the atmosphere, it doesn't come down.
Right,
it starts to kind of sort of spread around like a firework. So from our point of view, what we've got to do is set up our kind of release strategy over a couple of weeks or even a month, so that when we get to the eye of the storm, we're prepared. And the way I think of it is, if you've ever seen that film Braveheart, and they're all standing there, and Braveheart.
They can take our lives, but they can't take our music.
Exactly. And he's at the front, and everyone's going, we're gonna fight the battle, and he's going, wait for it, because he knows that if everyone just starts running, it's all over. Exactly. So he says, wait, on my mark, wait, and everyone's going, go. He's going, no, wait. And then he says, go. And everyone goes together because he knows that's the strongest possible outcome. And it's the same thing with our release. So therefore, it comes down to building this audience with value and content. So I personally think, nowadays we are out of the music video phase and we are into the music videos phase, if that makes sense. Because back in the day, I used to go home and I used to stick Kerrang or Scuzz or MTV2.
Oh my God, yes. Great memories. Oh God.
And I just watch them all day. I just watch music videos. And I could tell you, even now, the music video that was attached to the song. Whereas nowadays, we've got computer games, we've got social media, we've got Netflix, everything at the touch of a button. So we live in this phase now of, well, what's next? Right. So when you say, did you watch the music video? People say, yeah, I watched it. What's next? It isn't go and watch it again. We don't watch movies 10 times like we used to. We tend to watch it and say, well, what's the next thing I'm going to watch?
Right.
So nowadays you get this strategy where instead of spamming people and saying, do you listen to my song again? What we do is we say, let's attach the song to something else and make sure that song becomes memorable. Because, people listen to the song the first time and they go, yeah, it's good. But once they've listened to that song the 5th or the 6th or the 7th time, they're like, oh, I love this song. But it takes a little bit of warming up to kind of get into. So our job becomes, how do we attach the song to enough things so by the time they have heard it 6 or 7 or 8 times because they've seen something new, all of a sudden it's in. And at that point, they're thinking to themselves, oh, it's this song. Then they get up, they go to the car, they plug in their phone, they're thinking about you. They go to the gym, they phone into the headphones. What are they going to listen to? You, because at that point, you're the most relevant thing in their life playlist.
That's brilliant. And you know what? I'm a firm believer in repurposing your content. Absolutely. Especially nowadays with the attention span.
Yeah.
Do you realize we have less of attention span than fish do? It's certified that fish have 9 seconds attention span. We're down to 7. So essentially what you're saying is our videos and songs have to be 6 seconds long for people to want to listen to it. But you know
just
what?
one half of a chorus.
Exactly. You know, if you get to the chorus, but that's what music stations and corporations have been doing for years. They completely muscle these songs into your brain. They play it like 100 times. And then you're like, even if it's a terrible song, you're like, I actually like it because now it's in my memory recall. So you're absolutely right. Applying that repurposing and that consistency is key. It's like I said, man, I could talk to you for hours, but anyway, that's another story. So let's do question number 2. Building a brand has certainly for me been essential. And again, this is a very loaded question, but I took all the questions relating to this, and I would like you to describe to my listeners, in your own opinion, of course, what are the most important elements when starting out in your career, all right? In other words, what should you be focusing on? What's the most important focal point on launching and representing your brand? And this ties into rebranding stages for many artists out there as well that have been out. They want to be like, I need to do something new. I need to reinvent myself. So I want you to answer that in the Damian philosophy way.
I mean, I think of it in 2 ways. I think there's 2 words for me that sum up this building a brand, which is the word interesting and the word value. And interesting is really weird because everyone thinks that they need to be good. And Seth Godin talks about this. It's like, there's enough good. In fact, good is not good enough because everyone's good. But you've got to break through the noise by being interesting. So when people are saying, is there too much noise in Facebook ads? Is there too much noise on social media? Is there too much noise on Instagram? Well, the answer is there's too much noise everywhere, but that doesn't stop you from being able to break through if you're doing something interesting. And I think that word interesting is what garners attention. And so nobody aspires, you know, as an artist, as a creator, no one aspires to be average or boring or normal. I suppose normal is the word. No one aspires to be that kind of normal on the whole. When they look at their artists, it's inspiring them. It makes them feel something and has that emotion. It makes them want to do something because it's interesting, but at the same point, it connects with them, that connection. And so that kind of brand slash what you do is very, very important. So, you know, from your point of view, as soon as you pop up, I'm like, you walk in the room or you pop up on screen and I'm like, this dude's badass because you look like you're interesting. I'm like, I want to talk to this guy. Who's this guy? And you're not aspiring to say, hey, you know, there's a street outside with 1,000 people who live on it. And guess what? What's really great about me is I'm like everybody else. Because we say, I don't aspire to be like everybody else. I am like everybody else, but I don't want to aspire to that. I want to aspire to other things. So for me, I was 15 years old and a friend of mine, you know, handed me a CD back in the days of CDs, handed me a CD and he was like, check this. And I looked at it and it was a picture of a guy on fire and it was the Rage Against the Machine first album.
That's great cover too, man.
Yeah. And I looked at it and I was like, whoa. Yeah, you know, I was 15 years old and he was like, no, wait, listen to it. And I put it on and I think Bomb Track or whatever was the first track. And this riff came in and I was like, I mean, it changed my life instantly. I was like, what is going on? And like
I've had those epiphanic moments, but go ahead. Yeah, continue. This is great.
I was like 5 minutes in. I'm like, I've got this guy screaming at me and he's going, fuck you. I won't do what you tell me. Right. And I'm like, yeah, this
some of those that work forces. So powerful, man. Brilliant. Yes.
And I was like, instantly 15-year-old angry me is like, somebody finally understands me. And at which point, you know, at that, I connected with that message. I connected with them, you know, and so, you know, and if someone just came along and just said, no, I'm just normal, then I'm like, that's a bit boring because we're all trying to get attention. So interesting is a big part of it. But then how we actually build the brand to me comes out of value and providing value to other people. So yes, we provide music. Yes, we entertain. But everybody does that now. So what's the bit that someone on the other end says, oh, I really value that? And I think it comes, my personal opinion is this comes down to 4 things, especially on social media, 4 things. And the first one is talent, because people will share talent, people will talk about talent. The amount of times people will tag me into some like 7-year-old bass player who's better than me. And I'm like, oh, great.
Nice.
But it's because they see that social currency. They go, Damian's going to love this. He's so talented. So talent is something that people will share. Inspiration. If it's inspirational, people will share inspiration. If it's emotional, or something that moves you, if it's emotional, then people will share that. People will get on board, because you see loads of people where a soldier will come back from war and the dog sees the guy for the first time in 6 months, and the dog's going crazy, and I don't know why I'm watching on my Facebook, but all of a sudden I'm choking up and I'm like, oh, it's amazing.
Right, exactly.
And then I want to share it because I think someone else needs to feel the same way as I do. And whether I'm angry or sad or laughing, I'd share those. And so that's value to people. And then the last thing is education, which I know is not the right thing for every artist, but if something is done in a creative, educational way, it holds value. And those 4 things are shareable, and they bring value to people. And if they bring value to people in this day and age where the algorithm isn't really doing anything for us, and if we don't have lots of money to spend on advertising, we have to rely on the people on the other side saying, don't worry, I will take this outside of your Instagram and I'll do the sharing for you, because you can't get out of your room without advertising. And the other people will do the work for you. And that's what I think it is. And if we can look after people and have conversations and understand that people are there because they're really into you and your talent and your inspiration. But when you reward them and you do something that builds a bit of legacy, it goes so far. And I think this is the key bit that artists should be doing. So an example of this is I saw this band called Arkells, who are a big Canadian band, but in the UK, nobody knows. So I'm on this call and I'm saying, oh, they're really good at looking after people, to this guy. And he's from Canada. And I said, oh, there's this band, Arkells. They're really, really good at looking after people. He said, let me tell you a story. He said, so they came to my hometown to do a gig. I'm a big fan. So I tweeted them with a video of me playing guitar to one of their songs. And I said, if you need a second guitarist, I'll be there. And they tweeted him back within 10 minutes and said, bring your guitar. And he went to the gig, brought his guitar with him. They had someone meet him at the side of the stage, took him backstage. And when that song started, they brought him on, plugged him in, and got him to play guitar with them on stage.
That's insane.
At that point, he is now a fan for life. His friends, his family are fans for life. Everyone is sharing this on socials. Everybody in the crowd is saying, this is amazing. Look what they did. What a lovely band. What a lovely bunch of people. They're sharing stuff. Because of that, the national news in Canada then picked this up as a story and then ran it on the news. So they got thousands and thousands and thousands of pounds or dollars worth of PR. And if you think about what did they do and how much did they spend? Nothing. They just did a nice thing for someone. They just literally said thank you and did something nice in front of everybody, and it made them hundreds if not thousands of fans, and brought them thousands of dollars worth of attention for nothing, for just doing something really nice for one person. And so when we're on Instagram, for example, we can say thank you, but what we can do is we can leave a voice message and we can say, oh, mate, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. And the person on the other side says, that means more to me than the word thank you, even though it's the same thing. So we can value and look after people, and they will spread the word for us.
You know what? You must be my long lost brother. Unfortunately, you've got the English accent, so nobody's going to pay attention to me. And when I speak, everyone's going to hear like wah 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 wah. So that's all they hear. But you could not. It's mind-boggling because it's so true. I've learned this from working retail for so many years. What's the most effective means of marketing? Word of mouth. And then to add to what you're saying is, if you were to project a number, let's forecast a number to market, okay, every bit of content, right, that filtered out to all those people that you were saying, you would have to spend a fortune. And instead, by doing something kind, all right, by creating this nice gesture, everyone felt it. It seems organic. It feels real. You know, they share it with their friends. And now you've got an audience that you never thought would be possible, that you've never even heard of upholding your message, whatever the hell that is, because I don't care what he's singing about. I don't care if he sucks, but this guy's such a cool dude. I got to follow him. So you're absolutely right in being passionate and being kind.
Do you know what's interesting with that is on this it doesn't matter how big or small of an artist you are. Right. The other day I was working with a friend of mine who is one of Ed Sheeran's co-writers.
Okay.
He co-wrote Lego House. He played guitar on Thinking Out Loud.
Great song, yeah.
He's like this guy is like songwriting big league. He is an amazing writer. Anyway, so we were talking about Ed Sheeran, and he said, this weird thing happened where after like Ed's second album, he was like, megastar sort of thing. And he messaged a friend of mine, Chris, and he said, I'm in the area in London. I'm in the area. Do you want to hang out? And Chris said, why are you in the area?
Wait,
why are you here? And he said, well, the funny thing is a couple of years back, before I released the first album, I was doing some gigs, and I promised this couple that if they ever got engaged, I'd play their engagement party. And they got in touch and said, it's time. We're engaged. As a joke, how do you feel about playing?
Oh my God!
He traveled 300 miles, even though he's Ed Sheeran. He traveled 300 miles. He went into their basement with about 12 people who are their friends, and he played some songs.
See, that's what I'm
just
talking
to
about.
say, hey,
that's what I'm talking about.
I did something good. This is Ed Sheeran. This is not like,
exactly.
This is not just someone who's got 20 fans or 20 strong audience saying, I suppose I better start from scratch. He said, no, I'm going to look after people. And if he can do it, we can do it.
Yeah. Man, it's amazing. It's true. I learned something along the way. Like, I love mentors, and I love listening to the icons of self-help. And one thing that I learned from Tony Robbins, he actually said, you give the most when you have nothing to give. And if you have the most, you give anyway, because people will appreciate you that much more. Because he's a superstar. Let's call it as we see it. But that gesture alone, not only did it make his day, but I believe in setting out this beautiful thing that I call karma. If you put that energy out in the universe, you get it back 100-fold. And that's why it's no surprise that he's a super megastar for gestures like that. And like I said before, you take care of the people that take care of you. Take care of your fans. Yeah. Embrace them. Yeah. I get on my little live. I'll get on there looking like crap. Damian, when I tell you I'm scruffy old beer, like, what's up, guys? No, I'm not Manny the Rockstar on stage. I'm Manny Cabo waking up. I haven't had my coffee. I don't want to be on here, but I want to say I love you guys. You guys are amazing. I am nothing without you. Thank you for sustaining my career. That goes such a long way, because they're like, oh my God, he got on here just to say hi and thank you. And then they take it personal. That's how you create super fans. So I couldn't agree with you more. And 100%. Now that we're on the topic of that, man, I'm going to get a little bit personal with you on this one. All right. Because you're a culmination of so many journeys that actually broke my balloon of curiosity, because I think, like I said, we're cut from the same cloth in wanting to, let's just say, proliferate the positive messages out into our ecosystem of amazing musicians. By what? By affording them the necessary tools to get to that level, right? And like you've done in leaps and bounds, of course. So my question to you is this: was there an epiphanic moment that you decided to embark on this educational journey? Because let's be real, you've shared the stage with some major icons, and then you went on to build an empire on multiple levels, from education to management and et cetera. So if there was a pivotal moment in that, I want to know, man. So please share that with me.
Yeah, they're absolutely. I mean, when you say that, it sounds amazing. When you just go about your day, and I'm like, wow, that sounds really impressive. Who's this guy?
That's you, bro. I'm just stating facts, man. All you need to do is answer.
I think there was definitely a moment in time for me, because I come from like a lot of people. I don't come from a fancy background. I grew up in Wales, which is the country next to England. And so I had to leave Wales and come to England to try and be a musician. And it was really difficult. And
I got to stop you right there. I have to, because if I don't say this, I'll kick myself. I had a dear friend, right, who I kind of fostered. He came over from, Wales. And I remember the one thing I said, I go, his name was Leon Perez, very successful now. He's here. And I go, dude, man, I love your English accent. He goes, mate, I'm Welsh. That's all I'm going to say, bro. So go ahead. I had to say that. I know he's going to laugh and chuckle when he hears this, but go ahead.
I love him already. He's the one. So I kind of went to, came to England, which makes it sound like I came in a boat, but I just drove. But I went to England, and then I met some incredible people. I met my mentor. So I was like 19 years old, and I was the same. I was like, I'm going to do whatever it takes to be a musician. At this point, I had a record deal, but the record deal had fallen apart. So, where everyone thinks that when you get this record deal, everything's going to work out. I did as well. I was like, once I've got the record deal, I'm just going to be the next huge, massive artist. And it doesn't happen like that for a lot of people. So we got dropped, and I was just thinking, I need to understand and learn this. So I was doing lots of gigs, and I was playing. And the thing with a CV is, you get really good moments in your careers, playing stadiums, playing arenas, playing with amazing people. But for a lot of people, it's not a daily occurrence. Some people it is, but for a lot of people, these are kind of spikes in a career where it just kind of goes up and back down, and normality, and up and down. And so you're constantly looking around for different gigs and different ideas and different studios and anything you can get to. And meanwhile, I had gone to music college, and they'd asked me to stick around as a bass teacher. So at first it was just me playing bass. And I was that kid who just would stay in all day for 8 hours a day, trying to figure out how to do like two-handed tapping on the bass. And I was like listening to Dream Theater or Annihilator or anything technical, or Sting or something, Yngwie Malmsteen. I was like, I'm going to play like Yngwie Malmsteen.
All that prog stuff, man. Absolutely.
Yeah. And so it was good learning to be a good bass player. But at the same point, from a teaching point of view, I felt like, I became a bass teacher for a while, and instantly it showed me that I just loved it. And I remember thinking, I had this kind of little community of other bass players, and we'd sit and we'd talk about bass and techniques and styles and stuff. And I absolutely loved that. And then from being sort of on tours and then off tours and go, and teaching, then the music college that I worked at got bigger and bigger. And it just became this huge passion. I just absolutely loved it. And so I never expected the music college that I started with some friends, I never expected it to become as crazy big. Some people just go, yeah, I'm going to build this thing.
Sure,
and it's going to take over the world.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I was just like, no, I just want to hang around with musicians all day, every day. And I want to talk about music and playing and music industry stuff. And it just got bigger and bigger and bigger, which was amazing. It was so amazing.
Of course.
And it was like a lifelong dream of just every day I'd go to work thinking, what problem can we solve when it comes to someone's career or someone's music? And it wasn't just like, how do you get to play an arena? It was a singer with a keyboard who didn't want to play in front of someone who'd written songs, and it'd be like, play me the song. And then after a while, it'd be like, okay, and they'd play the song, and you'd be like, you've just achieved something. And even though for them it was a huge thing, and for most people it would just be like, well, you just played a song in front of somebody.
Right. It's like nothing. Yeah.
Absolutely. And everyone's got their different achievements. It doesn't matter whether you're Ed Sheeran and you're trying to figure out how to become the first billionaire in music, or if it's someone who says, look, I've written this song and I don't know how to put this out into the world. Everyone's got their things that will make them feel good to be able to achieve those things. And I just felt like I just fell in love with that process and just feeling proud and working with musicians. And also I'm just the same as you. I'm a total geek. I will sit and spend 4 hours watching YouTube or podcasts or trying to figure something out or reading blogs. How does this work? How does that work? And then once I figured it out, finally I'm like, I've got it. I need to tell someone. I need to tell everyone how this works.
Right. See, and it's great that you just said that, because I'm all about what I call light bulb moments, and as a teacher, I worked for Apple Computers for years. I was one of those guys with the creative shirt. So I would teach you how to do a podcast, or I would teach you how to use, Logic Pro or Final Cut Pro. And there was nothing for me so gratifying than seeing the person go, oh my God, that's the way you do it. So I completely resonate with what you're saying, which is why I created this podcast. Listen, I'm no great singer. I'm not the best at anything, but I will give you my best effort. And of course, I could hold a note by coincidence from time to time, because even a broken clock is right twice a day, right? But I wanted to combine my message. So I intertwined my musical background with that sensibility of inspiration. And that essentially, the voice gave me that. Because when I was there, people think like, well, he's in front of 14 million people, got 4 chairs. That's fantastic. But it was never about that. Because I told the producers, I didn't even want to be on the show. And they giggled and chuckled, and they appreciated my transparency and found it refreshing that I'm like, okay, well, I actually said that. But I found myself in a room with 40 to 50 of my contestants with their parents, and I'm telling them, guys, you're focusing on the wrong thing. You're focusing on those 90 seconds that you're on stage. Why don't you focus on the journey? Because it's a marathon, not a sprint. Focus on the relationships that you're creating, focusing on the things that you've learned, the indispensable knowledge from these incredible award-winning coaches. My coach, Deborah Bird, Coach Kelly Clarkson, Coach Daughtry, Jennifer Hudson. So, of course, me being the sponge, I'm like, I'm going to shut up and just listen to everything this woman has to say. So I get it, man. It's the light bulb moments. And that's the most gratifying reward for me. Because in all honesty with you, if someone came up to me and said, you know what, Manny, you're not going to be able to sing anymore. No, you can't sell out stadiums or you can't play music, but you can utilize that platform to inspire people. I'm like, I'm good with that. I'm good. Bring it. That's fine with me. So, dude, I resonate completely. And thank you for sharing and being so transparent with me, man.
Yeah, you have to enjoy it. I mean, I think that's one of the regrets I had with setting up the music college, which went from, it literally started in my living room, and it went from there to now it's got centers across Europe, and it just got sold for hundreds of millions of dollars, which is amazing. But the interesting thing was I was so caught up in it has to be bigger, or it has to be better, or I have to fix this. And my head was down the whole time. And it was only when I left that I thought, I didn't enjoy it as much as I should, because no one told me to enjoy it. Everyone told me, or everyone sort of made me feel like the pressure had to be on how I could make it bigger or better. And I didn't stop, and I didn't look up, and I didn't appreciate the great things.
You didn't live in the moment.
Apart from the first years. Yeah, I didn't live in the moment. I think you need to do that as an artist, because otherwise what happens is you just say, I played some stadiums, and I can hand on heart, I've played plenty of stadiums. It's fantastic. But at the same point, once you've done an arena, you think, oh, well, now I need to get to a stadium. When you do a stadium, it needs to be, I need to headline a festival. When you headline a festival, it's like, well, now I need to, do the next thing. There's always the next thing. And sometimes you need to just say, isn't this really great?
Right. See, and that's exactly my point. I was always focused on the end result, and I completely missed out, because now I think back, I'm like, why didn't I just enjoy the process? And by the way, you're in good company, because apparently it's a precursor to start a business in your living room or garage. I mean, you look at Apple and look at Amazon. So now it explains why you're having such a successful career. But you know what? Let me get to my final question. I want to respect your time as well. This has been amazing. So my final question of the show, which I always state, is my signature question. And evidenced by all the information that you just provided today, I kind of know the answer, but I want to hear it from you, which is, what's your mojo, man? Like, what keeps you strategizing to, let's just say, continuously taking musicians to that next level? Because if I could bottle that and sell it, God, I'd be freaking rich, loaded, every major accolade that you could think of. So tell us, like, why do you keep doing this?
This is probably going to be a really dark answer. But I think
whatever, man. We're open. I'm open to all of your feedback and your personal anecdotes.
I think fear is a big thing that drives me. A big part of this is being scared of this being the end of it, and just when I sold the college. And I remember the day it went through, the final day, and I remember thinking, I'm this, at the time, slightly chubby, uncool kid from Swansea in Wales. And all of a sudden, I'm like, I'm a millionaire. And like, this wasn't part of the story. And I'm sat there, and I remember when the day it finished, I remember driving home, and I'd never been so scared in my life. And I remember getting a pen and paper, and I was like, 30 years old, I think. And I wrote on the top of the paper, what am I going to do for the rest of my life? And it was sheer panic. I was thinking, what if that's it? what if I lucked out? What if I can never achieve anything? What if I can never do anything? What happens if it wasn't me? What if it was luck? And so I started to panic about all of these things, and a total anxiety about my ability, my confidence. And so everything I do is almost proving something. Even the books, I wrote 2 books. I had a guy from a publishing company get in touch with me and said, "Do you want to write a book?" And I was like, this is a guy who failed English twice.
I'm right there with you, bro. Trust me. I know. I get it.
I was like, I don't think I'm your guy, if I'm honest. And he was like, no, I think it'd be really good. Anyway, so I went for this meeting, and by the time I'd left his office, I was like, I can write a book. And so I wrote this book, and I remember even at the end just thinking, that's ridiculous. That's stupid. Like, who's letting me write a book? And so I think a lot of it's this idea of like, I just don't want the journey to end. I don't want the achievements to be able to stop. And so therefore, I remember when, for years, Gary Vee used to say this thing where if it all ended tomorrow, I just get up and start again. And I used to say the same thing. I was always just like, hey, if everyone takes everything away, I'll just start again. Now, interestingly enough, before the Music Business Academy I have now, I've got an agency and a management company in the UK, and we're responsible for doing around about 8,000 to 10,000 events per year. And when Corona hit, we went from 8,000 to 10,000 events to 6, not 6,000,
yeah, that's crazy.
6.
That's crazy. No,
So the whole thing was down, and like I was having to trying to keep things going and make redundancies and going into debt, trying to keep the company going, and everything settled down. And I remember just thinking, this is the Armageddon. This is the thing of, if it all ends tomorrow, we just have to keep going. Right. It's like, I'm not going to stop. And I was like, this is where you put your money where your mouth is. This is where you either quit or you keep going. And weirdly enough, as much as it was a tough year last year, it was also the most exciting, invigorating year, because you're like, well, now I've got to start again. And the starting again is really exciting to me. And I think when you achieve something, you go, oh, that was really good, but I'm not interested.
Right. Then
you get back to that. I want to make something new. Just like I can't write songs. I'm not a songwriter, but I understand the idea of having nothing and then having a song and going, look what I did. Look what I did.
Right, exactly.
That's the thing that drives me, is the fear that the last thing that I did has happened. And so my brain just goes, do something else, quick, do something else.
No, it's completely relatable. And what's funny about that is you're right, because Gary Vee does have that mentality. And I completely understand, and everything you said resonates, because this year, everything got canceled. My photography, I must have lost a good over, not the 250 million, of course, but maybe about $85,000 when I started tallying up the numbers, right? Wow. All of my tours were canceled. All of my photo shoots were canceled, because let's face it, musicians weren't performing. When you're not performing, you're not making any coin. And I had to reinvent myself. But like Gary Vee, we're all cut from the same cloth, because I love the hustle. I love the game. And I cannot be stagnant. And truer words haven't been spoken. Like, I feel your pain. And even at the loss of my dad, where I had to take some time to mourn, inside I was like, I can't sit around anymore. I got to figure something out. And out of this abyss of uncertainty came this podcast. And I have to tell you, it's been a revelation, because it has opened up so many doors. It has built my clout as a musician. And to allude what you were saying, I'm like, wait a sec, I never thought I'd meet all these people. I thought my music would get me to that level. It's the furthest thing from the truth. I've done 2 live shows on Facebook, but I've done over 30 episodes now. And every episode is full of information, inspiration, indispensable knowledge from top-tier people that are forwarding not only their knowledge, but their time. And to me, time is worth so much more than money. So for that, again, I mean, what can I say, brother? I'm beyond grateful for your time, and honored that you say yes to come on to the show and not only share your voluminous amounts of information, but also your transparency on a personal level. And that's beyond refreshing for me, as I said before. And on behalf of my listeners and myself, I want to thank you for joining us today. But before you go, please tell my listeners where they can find you if they're looking to excel in this crazy world that we call the entertainment industry. Because evidenced by the responses and the questions that I got, something tells me that they adamantly do. So please indulge us once again.
Oh, amazing. Honestly, thank you so much for having me. One thing I would say as well is, this podcast is really taken off. I mean, it's growing fast.
Yeah.
But when you listen or you watch or you see something that does really well, and you just say, I'm not surprised. I mean, you are so good at podcasting.
Thank you so much.
It's unreal.
Well, I'm trying to be great like you. We've never met, but I feel like I've known you for 20 years. But here's the thing, though, and I completely believe that you have to do something that you're passionate about. I love using my voice, and I couldn't sing, so you know what? I want to connect. I'm a big networker. I'm a big believer that people and uplifting those around you and gaining the knowledge and respecting what they have to offer will elevate everyone. So all I'm trying to do is, again, put some good karma out there, put some good knowledge, associate my musician fans, and giving them that inspiration to not quit, because there's always room for one more. And you know why? I hate to be that which I loathe the most. I've been verbally bullied all my life, and I'm 6'2", but people don't realize there's a lot of ways of bullying people. People are always trying to change who I was. I was an abortion waiting to happen. The doctors told my parents, don't have this kid because he's going to be born with complications. My dad said, absolutely not. We're having him. Here I am, 51 years later, raising Cain, meeting people like yourself that have so much to offer this world. And it's my goal, my legacy, to leave this world better than when I got it. That's basically sums me up. And I'm just a bald guy with a microphone, Damian. I'm trying to be amazing like you, So
you are amazing.
Dude, I got nothing but love for you. You're certainly a Mojo for Musicians rock star. And I bid you farewell, and may the force behind the music always be with you, my man. And unless you have anything to say, yeah, you're so welcome. Unless you have anything to say, take care and say hi to my British peeps, brother, and say hi to your amazing PA. She is a doll and a dream to have. So take care of her, man.
Will do.
All right, brother. You rock, man. I'll talk to you real soon.
Honestly, dude, you're a legend. That was amazing. Thank you so much. Anything you need, by the way, anything you need, honestly, give me a shout whenever you need.
I got enough problems keeping up with all these videos, man. I got enough work to do. You're keeping me busy for a lifetime. So if I need some help, believe me, I'll reach out. But you made everything so clear cut that I'll call you when I have specific questions. And maybe we can have a tea or a scone
I'd love
sometime.
that.
That'd be
Whereabouts,
great.
Whereabouts are you based?
I'm here. I'm here in Central Jersey. I have to be near New York City because I'm in and out all the time. So I have to be here, and I'm on the East Coast.
We will be there. We'll be in. I mean, we were supposed to move to New York, but at the moment we're going to be backwards and forwards. So whenever I'm over near there, I'll give you a shout.
Well, you know what? We'll do a photo shoot. We'll have some tea, and then we'll talk music, brother. I got nothing but love for you. I love it. Virtual hugs, Damian. Take care, brother.
Thank you so much. Take care. See you soon.
You got it.
This has been a Mojo for Musicians podcast. If you're a musician, producer, engineer, or any other industry professional wanting to share your mojo and stories of success with our listeners, or just want to share some feedback on today's episode, we'd love to hear from you. So just send us an email at info@mannycabo.com. Thanks for listening.